Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylina and this is the Magic Society, and this is the 6th episode of the 12 Days of Yule hosted by Miss Ivy the Occultist, and this is all about death and rebirth. So let's get started. Okay, so it's actually funny this particular topic came up because recently we had our Christmas party at work, and one of the employees there does acupuncture, but how she does it is she also does like medium readings as well as she's doing the acupuncture. So she does like the ones that you do in the ear, and I guess depending on where she puts it, how it goes in, how it falls out, she can get different messages, and she can also hear spirit talking to her too. And funny enough, when she did mine, it was kind of all about discovering like who I am as a person. She said that I tend to sometimes have relationship issues, which, let me tell you, she didn't know anything about me. She's never met me before. This was the first time she's met me. She doesn't know anything about me. And yet her reading was so completely accurate. It's always like, it blows my mind, but it's also like kind of frightening too, that she knows, like, it's legit, you know? And it's not that I don't believe this kind of stuff, but when you have experiences like this and it just like blows your mind again, like I'm never not surprised when it comes to spirits and stuff, because they give you messages in the most mysterious of ways. But the funny part of it all was she was literally talking about how I almost needed to go through a death of old me, who is made up of a lot of different people in my life, but that are not me. And that I needed to figure out who I was and live authentically to myself in order to move forward and to be able to succeed. And really this past year was kind of a death, you know, as far as my old life, because we completely flipped things upside down. We're moving forward on our own again. We have let go of the marriage that we've been in for the last 6 years now and bid that adieu, and just trying to figure out who I am as a person as far as work goes. And I mean, I've been in this huge transitional period for the last 4 years probably, discovering who I really am. And I'm just now, I think, on the right path, or getting to the right path of really being authentic. So death and rebirth. Sometimes you have to go through a death of yourself, metaphorically speaking, in order to rebirth yourself into your next step, your next story, and the next chapter of your life. And that is definitely where I have been. So I just found it really funny that she kind of used that terminology, because that was so perfect for this video. And so yeah, death and rebirth. I mean, obviously it's happening all around us right now, and that's kind of the perfect season to kind of, you know, you see it all in nature. Everything's kind of, you know, asleep, so to speak, or in, you know, dormant. And then in the spring, it's all back to life. And so I feel like it's a great time of the year for us to do the same thing, to kind of just look back, like take the time to look back. And it's always so easy to be moving forward and doing the next thing and always chasing the future. But sometimes it's good just to look back on our past and be like, what worked really well? What didn't work so well? You know, what are our goals for the future? And it's really easy to do that around this time of year, because even though, like, for me, New Year's resolutions, I don't love making New Year's resolutions. I mean, I like having general goals, but I don't like setting like a specific time period in which I expect to meet them, especially not at the beginning of the year when it's cold and I just don't feel motivated quite as much. And it is more of a time just to rest and digest and you know, kind of start thinking about where you want to go and what you want to do, and having goals, but not exactly being like they have to be met today, because winter is a hard time to be like super motivated, you know? Like I kind of like to wait when spring hits to really start jumping on like major goals, especially if it has anything to do with fitness, because although I'm trying really hard right now to keep on a program so that when the 2 really cold months do hit, I'm motivated enough to hopefully still be doing something, because otherwise I will just fall off and we will be unmotivated and kind of depressed for 2 months, and then spring hits and then, you know, we're motivated again. So yeah, just I really like to just kind of just be. And I feel like the universe is really trying to teach me that right now, because as a Virgo, we like our boxes. We like to have everything organized and know where we're going and have a game plan. And sometimes life just isn't like that. And I think that is the lesson I'm trying to be taught right now. And I think I may have mentioned it on my channel before that I really, really, really want like a little house. But the spirit guides also told the medium that I shouldn't do it right now, that I need to wait and I need to save. And then they also told her that they didn't even see me living in Excelsior Springs at all, which is where my work is, which I thought I had a planned out. But I guess they told her that they're not even sure they see me living there. So I think they're just trying to teach me to be patient, and I think patience is a great thing for this time of the year, because Death and Rebirth, I feel like it's not just death and it's not just rebirth, that there's a whole gray area in between before you do the one or the other. And it's that transitional period that you live in that just feels unknown, and it can feel really uncomfortable. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, but I'm trying to learn to be comfortable in the in-between period. Like we've kind of died, but we haven't been reborn quite yet in this new life, in this new game plan. Like I'm still very much in the middle of the two, and we haven't quite gotten there yet. And yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's very clear that the spirits want me to just be right now, to just calm down and to not maybe be making every single plan right now and having every single thing lined up. Like they told the medium that there is a reason the houses that I've been looking at haven't gone through yet, and that there's a reason that these things have not come into play yet. And as an impatient human, we want it now. But the universe right now is saying no, and it fits right in with the time of the year that it is, because now's not a time for going and doing everything. It's time for just listening, and that's sometimes really hard to do. It's sometimes really hard just to be the listener. And so yeah, I think we're figuring that out. So that's kind of how I'm seeing the death and rebirth right now. Metaphorically speaking, my whole being is going through that right now. I think we're getting there. We're getting to the rebirth part, but we've still got a little bit left to do. I think there's still some lessons that the universe is trying to tell me. And I feel like we go through several deaths and rebirths in different kinds of ways. Obviously, yearly, we go through that every year. But I also feel like there's key points in our life that are like big deaths and big rebirths. And something that the medium also told me, which isn't related to death and rebirth, but in a way kind of inadvertently, is that she told me that the spirits were trying to tell me that I needed to not see my past as like a failure and a mistake, and that I needed to see it as more of a pivot, like that it was just, it's time for my life to go in a different direction. and that I can't look back at the past and think that it's been all these mistakes, and that the death of these events are somehow, you know, horrible and bad, that I need to see them as just lessons learned, and that I need to then move forward, and that you can't truly be reborn if you can't let go of the death that has happened in your past. You know, like those events, they happened, but if I keep on holding on to them, I will never be reborn into what I'm supposed to be. And so I feel like there's just like, oh, it's such a deeper meaning. Like it's so hard and complicated to explain, because when you go through hard times, like you just, you know there's a reason in the back of your mind, but it's sometimes not always easy to see it. And you can be in denial, as far as like, oh, I'm not holding on to these things, or, you know, I'm not, but I have been. And so, yeah, it's a process, and it's not always easy. And, so yeah, that's kind of how I'm seeing Death and Rebirth right now. It's there. And, yeah, and it's funny, this time of the year, recently, I've been thinking a lot about like my great-grandma, and she passed years ago. Well, not years and years ago, it's not like super far, but I mean, more time has passed than I probably even like feel like it has. But I've been seeing her spirit a lot in cardinals recently, and I've just, that sense of knowing, like you just know when a certain something is connected to something else. And I've known for a long time that she comes to me through cardinals. But I kind of, the other day, wanted to like know that for sure, because I've recently started seeing cardinals in pairs now, and one's very much a male and one's very much a female. And they've been like showing themselves randomly to me, like out in nature and stuff. But it always feels very specific. Like I can't explain how it is, but I know it's her and my great-grandpa. And so on my one walk, on the way walking, two cardinals flew in my path and sat on a branch and literally were just staring at me. And I was like pretty close to them, and they were not flying away, and they were just staring at me. And so I told them, I was like, okay, I think you are great-grandma and you are my great-grandpa, but at some point, can you please show me two more cardinals in some way to confirm that it is you guys? And so I, you know, continued with my walk, didn't really think anything of it. And then on the way back, I mean, I legitimately had not been thinking about it. All of a sudden, two exact more cardinals came and like sat on a branch and like stared at me again. And it was literally two on the way there and two on the way back. And those were the only two cardinals I had seen the rest of the day, the rest of the walk. And then I was at a gas station, and this like truck pulls up, and what's on the front of the truck? A huge red cardinal, and just like out of the blue, like these aren't coincidences. And so I know that was her telling me that that was them. And I feel like you think about family around this time of the year, you know, like you honor them. I feel like, I mean, you should honor them throughout the year, but especially around the holidays, you just think about them a lot. And you miss them, but you know that they're still there. And that's why the concept of death, a lot of people fear that concept, but I don't, because I know that their physical form in which they appeared to us may have died, but the spirit, regardless, I feel like, in what you believe in, whether it's Christianity, you know, whatever religion it is, or even if you're just spiritual, like spirit lives on forever, and there's always going to be that piece of whoever it is that's still going to be with you. And so death is like, death to me is not like death, like scary death. It doesn't scare me at all, because I know that you can still reach them You know, you can still have contact with that person that you knew. They may have passed on into a rebirth in another life, but that person that you knew still exists, because when we get outside of this dimension, time is not a thing. All the different times, all the different dimensions, they're all here. They're all, and it's so complicated. It's such a complicated thing to explain or to talk about, because we don't fully know all the answers. But I know that time in this, the way we usually see it, it's all an illusion. And so death and rebirth, it's not start from finish, if you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of everything, everywhere. And I know it's probably not making sense how I'm explaining it. I'm not explaining it how I want to explain it, but that's why the concept of death just doesn't scare me, because I know the people that have passed on, they may be living another life right now, but somehow they're still able to communicate with me here and now. So they exist in all times, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't, because it's confusing. And I've gone off kind of on a different conversation, but it all kind of works with the theme of death and rebirth, because I really don't totally believe in like a true death. I don't think we ever truly just die and cease to exist. We're always going to exist in some capacity, in some way, and all the lifetimes that we've lived still exist. Who I was decades and years ago in my past life, that person still exists somewhere. I'm maybe not aware of all her thoughts and her memories and every lifetime I've lived before this point, but they exist, and I know they exist. But yet, my future self, this is not going to be my form forever. So this physical body is going to die, but my spirit is going to move on and be in however many lifetimes ahead of me. Sorry, the memory on my camera died out, which is probably an indication that I should probably stop rambling and wrap up this video. That way it's not too long either, because if you are following the 12 Days of Yule, that means that I think Ivy posted last that there's like 70 different entries potentially to watch, so I don't want mine to be like 5 billion hours long. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Mine got a little bit abstract and a little bit out there, but yeah, death and rebirth, it's interesting concept. I feel like there's so many different ways to look at it, and I don't see it how I like used to see it. Like I used to really fear death, in the like physical sense as well, like the actual process of dying, like, but not anymore. And I know that some people like around me, like we come from a very Christian background, and so sometimes when I talk about death and not being afraid of it and being okay whenever it comes for me, I sometimes get a little bit of tension when I talk about it, because, you know, I think while yes, life is a gift and we should live it to the fullest every day, when death comes to me, I'm not going to be scared about it. And because I know there's more after. So I'm not worried about it. But I know some people do not feel the same, and they are like they don't like talking about it. And I get it, because you are losing something, you know, especially when it comes to others that you love and care about. And when you lose them in that physical way, there is a hole, you know, there is a gap. But if we can just hold on to the fact that they're still around, still there, we can still communicate with them, I think it makes it easier to comprehend and accept. But yeah, just a fascinating topic. And I love working with spirits that passed on, and I love being in the realm of ghosts and spirits and haunted places just because there's so much history behind it. You know, those people lived a life here, some of them did, if they're human entities, and they've passed on, and so they know things and see things that we can't even fathom, and yet they're still here, even if it's like an imprint of them, or sometimes they are actually still here in a different form. And it just, I love any of that stuff. So death just doesn't scare me as much anymore. And so I'll be interested to see if anybody else kind of talks about death in this kind of way, because yeah, death is happening right now around us with the plants dying off, and but really, I mean, they're just kind of dormant. They're not like dead. I mean, some of them are, because, you know, some of them you have to plant every year because they legitimately do not come back. But others are just dormant or in transition. And so, yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment down below, ring the notification bell if you are interested in seeing more of my kind of content. I'm straight up with the fact that I'm, as far as like YouTube-y, witchy, I'm not like a pro. A lot of my stuff is just having open conversations about things. I'm not going to be one to tell you that I know everything. I definitely don't. And there's other people that have been, who are far more knowledgeable, far more in depth than I am. But yeah, if you like my content, I'd love for more people to engage in conversation. That's all I have for you today. As always, be kind, stay curious, and always speak your truth. And I will see you next time for another video. Bye.